When we talk about being a winner, most of us think about the moment of victory, the applause, the recognition, the external validation that says, "You made it." But if you strip away the noise, winning is not found in the spotlight. It begins long before anyone is watching. It begins in the quiet moments when you decide to keep going, even though no one is clapping yet. Winning is not about defeating others, it's about rising to the best version of yourself. Too often, we are taught to measure victory by comparison, to believe that success means standing taller than those around us. But real winning is not about who you leave behind. It is about who you become along the way. The deepest form of victory is not external but internal, a quiet strength that grows when you choose to challenge your own limits rather than chase the shadows of others. When you define winning only by the defeat of someone else, you enter a cycle of endless competition. No matter how far you go, there will always be someone stronger, faster, or more accomplished. Chasing comparison robs you of fulfillment because your worth becomes tied to a moving target. Rising to the best version of yourself, however, shifts the focus inward. It is not about outrunning another person, but about running further than the version of you who once doubted, hesitated, or stopped trying. That kind of winning lasts because it is not dependent on circumstances, but on your willingness to grow. Becoming your best self is not a single moment of triumph. It is a practice. It happens when you commit to learning even when it's hard, when you pick yourself up after disappointment, when you hold yourself accountable to your values even if no one else is watching. This form of winning requires honesty because you cannot become your best self by pretending to be someone else. It requires courage because growth means stepping into places where comfort no longer shelters you. It requires patience because transformation does not happen overnight but unfolds slowly, shaped by persistence and heart. True winners understand that life is not about having control over others but about having control over themselves. The person who chooses discipline over distraction, kindness over cruelty, and resilience over defeat is already winning in the deepest sense. Rising to your best self may not always come with applause or trophies, but it brings a sense of alignment that cannot be shaken. You know within yourself that you are not living smaller than you are meant to live. That feeling is worth more than any external recognition. Winning this way also allows you to contribute more fully to the world around you. When you stop seeing others as rivals, you begin to see them as companions on a shared journey. Instead of competing, you collaborate. Instead of tearing down, you lift up. Instead of being consumed by jealousy, you are inspired by possibility. Rising to your best self creates ripples that extend far beyond your own life, shaping the lives of others through your example. At the heart of it, being a winner is not about finishing first. It is about refusing to stop growing. It is about looking back and seeing that you have stretched further, stood taller, and loved deeper than you once believed you could. That is the victory no one can take away, the victory of becoming the person you were always meant to be. Being a winner does not mean standing on a podium above others. It means standing tall within yourself. It means showing up for your life with courage even when your knees are shaking. It means daring to step into uncertainty because hiding from it never creates growth. Every great story of triumph carries chapters filled with doubt, mistakes, and tears. But the difference is, a winner doesn't close the book there. They turn the page. True winning begins with courage, the courage to show up even when outcomes are uncertain. It is easy to step forward when the path is clear, when success feels guaranteed, when you already know how the story will end. But real strength is revealed in those moments when nothing is promised, when the ground beneath you feels unsteady, and when the possibility of failure looms large. That is where courage lives, and that is where true winning is born. Showing up with courage is not about erasing fear, it is about acting in spite of it. Fear whispers all the reasons you should hold back, reminding you of past mistakes or pointing to all the ways you might stumble again. But courage does not silence fear, it walks alongside it. It allows you to take the next step, even if your voice shakes and your hands tremble. Each time you dare to show up, even without certainty, you prove to yourself that fear does not control you. That victory, however small, is a form of winning that builds a foundation for greater growth. When outcomes are uncertain, the temptation is to wait until everything feels safe. But waiting for guarantees is another way of saying no to possibility. Some of the greatest opportunities in life only reveal themselves once you have already taken the risk to step into the unknown. Courage opens the door to these moments. It allows you to enter the arena not because success is assured, but because you value growth, authenticity, and effort more than comfort. Winning in this sense is not measured by external results, but by the depth of your willingness to try. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has stood in this space of uncertainty. They were not immune to doubt or fear. They simply chose to move forward anyway. What separates those who rise from those who remain stuck is not talent alone, but the courage to keep showing up when the outcome cannot be controlled. Even if the result is not what was hoped for, the act of showing up creates resilience, teaches lessons, and shapes a strength that cannot be taken away. Courage also allows you to remain present in the process, not just fixated on the finish line. When you show up without knowing how things will turn out, you learn to appreciate the journey itself. You discover that growth happens in the attempt, in the willingness to step into discomfort, in the moments when you choose to lean into uncertainty rather than run from it. Each time you do this, you expand your capacity to trust yourself, and that trust is a greater reward than any external measure of success. True winning, then, is not about flawless outcomes or perfect records. It is about the repeated act of courage, the willingness to step forward even when fear and doubt are present. Each courageous choice adds up, shaping a life defined not by what was guaranteed, but by what was dared. To live this way is to understand that winning is not something handed to you. It is something you create each time you choose courage over comfort and action over hesitation. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, but it's the core of what makes a winner. To step onto the stage, to raise your hand, to try again after failure, that is vulnerability in action. It's exposing your heart to rejection, knowing you may fall, yet choosing to stand in the arena anyway. That is the true mark of strength. A winner embraces vulnerability as strength, not weakness. For far too long, vulnerability has been misunderstood as fragility, as if opening your heart or exposing your truth somehow diminishes your power. Yet the opposite is true. Vulnerability is not about lacking courage. It is courage itself in motion. It is the act of showing up without armor, of standing in the open without certainty, and of choosing to be seen even when there is risk. That is where true strength resides, and that is what sets a real winner apart. To embrace vulnerability means daring to be authentic, even when perfection feels like the safer mask. A winner understands that growth is not found in hiding flaws, but in acknowledging them, learning from them, and allowing them to shape resilience. Pretending to have it all together may offer temporary protection, but it closes the door to connection, growth, and trust. Vulnerability, on the other hand, creates honesty with yourself and with others. It allows you to admit when you don't know, to ask for help, to try again after failing, and to open your heart even after being hurt. That is not weakness, that is strength beyond measure. Every risk carries the possibility of loss, but it also carries the possibility of transformation. A winner understands that vulnerability is the bridge to that transformation. It is the willingness to say, I may fall, but I will rise again. I may stumble, but I will keep moving. This openness turns setbacks into lessons instead of defeats. Without vulnerability, failure feels final. With vulnerability, failure becomes fuel. The winner is not the one who never falters, but the one who embraces the courage to continue, scars and all. Vulnerability also deepens the connections we build. When you are willing to share your truth, your struggles as much as your victories, you invite others to step out from behind their own walls. A winner leads not through intimidation, but through authenticity. They understand that to inspire others, you must first be real with yourself. Vulnerability becomes the language of trust, and trust is the foundation upon which true influence and leadership are built. Strength born of vulnerability is not loud or forceful. It is steady and unshakable because it is rooted in truth. It says, "This is who I am, imperfect and still worthy, flawed and still capable." That kind of strength cannot be taken away because it does not depend on pretending. It grows from the inside, nourished by the willingness to be open, honest, and brave. The paradox of vulnerability is that in admitting our uncertainties, we discover our deepest resilience. In exposing our hearts, we uncover our greatest capacity to love and to persevere. In acknowledging our limitations, we find new ways to expand them. A winner understands this paradox and leans into it, knowing that real strength is not built by walls of protection, but by the courage to be seen as we are. That is what makes vulnerability not only a strength but the very heart of victory. And let's be clear, failure is not the enemy of winning. Failure is the training ground. Every stumble carves resilience into your character. Every closed door teaches you to knock with more conviction. Every setback refines the grit that carries you forward. A winner learns to see failure not as proof they can't, but as proof they tried, and will try again. Failure is not the opposite of winning. It is part of the path toward it. Too often, we are conditioned to believe that failure signals the end, a final judgment that we were not good enough or capable enough to succeed. Yet the truth is that failure is not a barrier to winning. It is the bridge. Every stumble, every setback, every disappointment holds within it the raw material that shapes resilience, wisdom, and strength. Without failure, winning loses its meaning, because it is the lessons learned in loss that make victory lasting and real. When we fail, we are confronted with reality. It strips away illusion and exposes what needs to be improved, what must be learned, and what requires more patience. This is not defeat, but education. Failure teaches in ways success never can. Success often celebrates the outcome, but failure focuses us on the process, on the effort, the choices, the adjustments, and the persistence required to move forward. A winner understands that every failure is feedback, a guide pointing them closer to the path that leads to growth. Those who view failure as the opposite of winning often stop trying after a fall, convinced that the setback defines them. But a winner looks at failure differently. Instead of seeing a closed door, they see a redirection. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, they ask what can be learned. That perspective transforms failure from something to fear into something to embrace. It becomes a teacher, not a tyrant. It builds resilience because each time you get back up, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the obstacle. Failure also humbles us in the best way. It reminds us that we are human, that growth requires risk, and that perfection is never the standard. This humility makes the eventual win far more meaningful because it is not taken for granted. When you have tasted failure, victory is no longer about ego. It becomes about gratitude, persistence, and the journey it took to arrive there. A winner knows that without those scars, the triumph would feel hollow. Every great achievement has failure woven into its story. Behind every breakthrough lies a trail of attempts that did not work, experiments that fell short, or moments when doubt nearly won. But those moments were not wasted. They were the very steps that made success possible. The courage to keep moving after failure is what separates those who win from those who stop trying. Winning, then, is not about avoiding failure, but about integrating it into the path, allowing it to strengthen your resolve and sharpen your vision. To see failure as part of the journey is to understand that the road to success is never straight. It bends, it breaks, it challenges, but it also shapes. Each fall offers an opportunity to rise stronger, more determined, and more prepared. Failure is not the enemy of winning, it is its companion. Those who embrace it, learn from it, and keep going are the ones who discover that every failure carried them one step closer to the victory they were seeking. To be a winner is also to lead with empathy and integrity. Winning loses its meaning if it comes at the cost of compassion or authenticity. The real victory lies in staying true to your values, even when shortcuts tempt you. People may forget your achievements, but they will never forget how you made them feel. A winner lifts others as they rise, understanding that success is richer when shared. Winning is sustained not by perfection, but by persistence and heart. Many people chase the illusion that to win, one must get everything right, never stumble, and never make mistakes. But perfection is a myth, and the pursuit of it often leaves people exhausted, discouraged, and disconnected from their true potential. The real essence of winning does not lie in flawless execution, but in the willingness to keep moving forward, fueled by determination and guided by passion. It is persistence that carries us when talent is not enough, and it is heart that gives meaning to the struggle. Perfection seeks to impress, but persistence seeks to endure. When things go wrong, as they inevitably do, perfection crumbles under the weight of expectation. Persistence, however, thrives in those moments. It whispers, "Try again," even when failure feels overwhelming. It steadies you when doubt rises, reminding you that growth is not linear but messy, unpredictable, and sometimes painful. Each step taken in persistence is a small victory in itself, because it means you have refused to surrender. That act of staying in the game, despite imperfections, is what defines a winner. Heart is the other half of this equation. Persistence alone can keep you moving, but it is heart that fuels why you keep moving. Heart is the fire that keeps burning when logic says to quit. It is the source of resilience when the path is long and obstacles seem endless. Heart reminds you of the deeper reasons behind your journey, your values, your dreams, your desire to make a difference. Without heart, persistence can become hollow, just a routine of pushing forward without meaning. With heart, every effort becomes infused with purpose, and every setback becomes part of a larger story of growth. When you combine persistence and heart, you create a strength that no failure can dismantle. The truth is, life rarely unfolds according to plan. Mistakes will happen, goals will take longer than expected, and detours will appear along the way. But persistence ensures you don't give up, and heart ensures you don't lose yourself in the process. Together, they sustain a kind of winning that outlasts momentary victories and extends into a lifelong practice of resilience and fulfillment. Perfection tells you that winning is reserved for the few who never falter. Persistence and heart prove that winning is for anyone willing to keep trying, to learn, and to keep showing up with courage and authenticity. A true winner is not someone who never falls, but someone who refuses to stay down. A true winner is not someone who hides their flaws, but someone who brings their full, imperfect, passionate self into the fight and keeps going. In the end, it is not the absence of mistakes that defines a winner, but the presence of unwavering spirit. Winning sustained by persistence and heart endures beyond trophies or recognition, because it is not rooted in flawless achievement, but in the strength of character. It is this kind of winning that creates lives of meaning, resilience, and lasting fulfillment. Persistence, not perfection, is what sustains winners. You will not always get it right. You will not always feel strong. But showing up again and again with heart, that is the quiet power that turns ordinary people into extraordinary examples of courage. So, to be a winner is not to conquer the world. It is to conquer your own fear, your own doubt, your own excuses. It is to wake up each day with the intention to live aligned with what truly matters, whether or not anyone else notices. When you do that, you realize winning is not a finish line. It is a way of living. A winner leads with empathy, compassion, and integrity. True leadership is not about dominance or control. It is about connection. A winner understands that strength is not measured by how much power one holds over others, but by the ability to uplift, to listen, and to create spaces where people feel valued. Empathy allows a winner to step into the shoes of another, to understand perspectives beyond their own. Compassion ensures that decisions are made with kindness, even in difficult moments. Integrity anchors it all, reminding us that winning without honesty or principle is no victory at all. When empathy, compassion, and integrity guide actions, success becomes meaningful because it is built not on the backs of others but in harmony with them. Winning is sustained not by perfection, but by persistence and heart. The pursuit of perfection often leads to exhaustion because no one can live without flaws or mistakes. But persistence, the simple act of not giving up, is the quiet force that carries us through challenges. It is the ability to keep going when the path is unclear, to rise after falling, and to try again even when the odds are stacked against you. Heart adds depth to this persistence. It fuels the determination to continue, not just for personal gain, but because what you're striving for matters deeply to you. Heart makes the journey meaningful, and persistence ensures you don't stop halfway. Together, they create the endurance needed for lasting success, proving that real winners are not perfect. They are relentless and passionate. To be a winner is to live aligned with your values, regardless of applause or recognition. External approval may feel gratifying, but it is fleeting. The applause fades, the recognition passes, and if that is all you are chasing, you will find yourself empty once the noise is gone. A winner does not build their sense of worth on the opinions of others. Instead, they ground themselves in their values, making choices that reflect integrity, honesty, and authenticity, even when no one is watching. Living this way requires courage because it often means standing firm when it would be easier to compromise. Yet this alignment brings a kind of peace and fulfillment that no trophy or title can replace. When empathy, compassion, persistence, heart, and values come together, they form a definition of winning that is deeper than competition. This kind of winning is not measured in victories over others, but in victories over fear, over doubt, and over the temptation to abandon one's principles. It is measured in the way you inspire trust, in the resilience you show when setbacks arise, and in the authenticity with which you live your life. A true winner does not need applause to validate their worth. Their actions speak for themselves. Winning, then, is not a single moment but a way of living, a steady commitment to growth, to kindness, and to standing tall in what you believe.